Hi, and good morning, everybody. So that actually was really interesting. I could have listened to Peter for another 1.5 hours, because actually he's right. I will get to that a little bit later. So my name is Simon Kissel. I'm the head and CEO and inventor or whatever of Viprinet. We are a manufacturer of networking components. We are from Germany, and of course at this point I have to apologize for being German. Schäuble is gone now, so things might improve finally. It's not that you are suffering from him. We in Germany are also suffering from him. You will find out more about this later on. Just a short moment of advertising. We do everything. Nothing from us is made in China. Everything is developed and produced in Germany by an international team coming from all over Europe to us. And what we do is we create survivable mission-critical internet connectivity. So what we do is we create a technology where when internet connectivity goes down, when someone dies or loses a lot of money, then our stuff is used. So it's highly reliable by using multiple cheap, crappy consumer broadband lines at the same time. So if you have any such application, talk to me upstairs at the booth later on. But now to my actual subject, where is my fiber? We have a lot of talk about fiber, and I learned a lot yesterday evening about what the situation is in Greece. I have a little statistic here which you cannot see back there, but I will show you. This is the percentage of households in Europe which actually have fiber these days. At the very top you can see Latvia and Sweden at about 40%, and if you look to the second class position, that's Germany. You know, we are the leaders of the world with 1.6% of fiber coverage in Germany. And I learned that right now here in Greece that you actually are trying to take EU funding to actually start building a fiber network. And that's very good because in Germany, due to corruption and stupid politicians, what's happening right now is that the Deutsche Telekom, which is evil, is taking all this EU funding, nobody else gets any, to not build a fiber network. So we get crappy VDSL and other empty promises. So you guys need to make sure that you fight for the EU funding to actually arrive at people who actually want to build fiber and not try to waste it on crappy old stuff like VDSL vectoring and things like this. So today, if you actually want to have fiber and want to see how a future information society can look like, you have to go to Sweden or Latvia, but it's extremely cold there, so you rather would not do it. What we have in Germany, and I've seen it to some extent here, not as extreme as in Germany and as in other countries, is that a lot of telcos are telling the politicians, no, we don't need fiber, let's do 5G instead. With 5G, we also get gigabit speeds and everything will be fine and you don't have to dig, you don't have to put out all these cables. But 5G is a lie. This is important to understand. If you say, today, if you look at your data plans, typically most people have 1 gigabyte or maybe 5 gigabytes per month. What does it mean? That means with a network speed of 300 megabit, you can actually use the speed for 1 minute per month. So the whole idea is you have to keep in mind, if you have a single fiber line, it means it's 1 gigabit for you all the time, all the months. If you have a cell tower with LTE on it, it means in the best case with 5G, it's 1 gigabit for 20,000 people or 50,000 people or whatever. So the whole system of this mobile stuff is only working because they force you not to use it. And if people are talking about 5G, there is no such thing. So there are a lot of clever people who try to find out what could be the next generation of mobile technology, and so far there has been nothing coming out of it. If you hear people who say, wow, we can now demonstrate to you 1 gigabit, what they do is they use all the frequency spectrum, 800 megahertz, 1800, 2100, and use it at the same time, but that just increases the peak speeds. Because imagine before you had 3 cakes, And everybody of you could take one piece of it. Now what they're just doing is they're combining these 3 cakes into one bigger cake and you get one piece of it. It's not more really. You get a smaller slice of the cake. So it's important to understand if people tell you, of course we need mobile technology because you don't want to run around with a fiber line. We need the speed, we need the future-proofness, but that's just not everything. What the situation today is that you have all these people telling you, put your data to the cloud, move it away, no longer on-premise, put it out somewhere. So we have, for example, in Germany, we had a hospital who decided to move all their patient data to the cloud. And then this hospital went offline. And people died. So they had to send away the patients because they could no longer process the data. Deutsche Telekom in Germany did a smart home project where everything in your house was controlled and all the data was in the cloud. So you could have the heating, windows, slides, etc. Now what happened is these houses went offline and the default setting was if you are offline, then the heating turns off. And you know, in a German winter, if your heating turns off for 3 days, you are in a big trouble. So, yay, welcome to the future. So what you have to keep in mind, that even today, with the applications that you're asked to do with the cloud-based stuff, that you need reliability. You need to have networks which can survive. And fiber, for example, is great because it has low error loss rates. However, if a fiber cable is cut, then you are in big trouble. You have to keep in mind such a fiber cable consists of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these small tiny glass fiber lines. And if a cable is cut, it means someone has to go there and it's so-called splicing. They need to splice it. And that means there's actually someone sitting there with a microscope and no, I need to glue these together and these and is doing this. And with a typical fiber line, this can take up to 2 or 3 days. So that means it's actually much easier to fix copper. If a copper line is broken, you just solder it together or you use some clamp, done. So fiber is great, but if you bet on fiber alone and connect a hospital with one fiber line, you will again have people dying. Yeah? So is this a big problem? Yes, it is a big problem. So today the worldwide market size of so-called SD-WAN, which means replacing expensive dedicated lines by using consumer broadband, is about $800 million. That's the market size. But the 2016 cost of downtime, which means businesses that went offline because of non-reliable internet, has been 700 billion. Yeah? So that's a really, really large number, and it's just a start. People are just starting to move mission-critical data to the cloud. If you run a warehouse like Amazon does, and they have all the data in the cloud, if they go offline, everybody can go home. Banks stop working if they go offline, etc. So cost of downtime will grow bigger and bigger and bigger, and the more of these applications you get, where the data is no longer on-premise, the more painful this will become. So we need to make sure that we have reliable, redundant connections. And of course, there are situations where you simply cannot fix the problem with fiber, because if you want to connect a fiber line to an ambulance car, that's not going to work. So we also need to be reliable on this. What Viprinet is doing is, in this ambulance car, we have these in the Nordics, Denmark, they're really innovative in healthcare, is that we say we use all 4 LTE networks, or 3, depending on your country, and all the different frequencies they have at the same time. Cell towers are in different places, so if we lose connectivity or coverage on one of the networks for a moment, it doesn't matter. As long as not all networks are down at the same time, you are safe. So that's one way to do it. And if it comes to fiber, again, you need to fight to really get fiber and not have the money ending up at some corrupt telco. But we need bridge technologies. So until this fiber stuff is here, we need to work with a VDSL, with a DOCSIS cable and LTE to work on our way so that we get at one point fiber to the premise. So Yeah, so how can we do this bridging? And that's again what Viprinet is doing. We just say, okay, I have an ADSL line here. It's only giving me 16 megabits and 600 kilobits up. I will take 3 of these. And I will add LTE from Deutsche Telekom and LTE from Vodafone, whatever I can get. And in total, then I have whatever 150 megabits stable with 0 packet loss, with a high quality. And again, Peter was exactly on spot that this is far too much disregarded, that the quality of an internet connection matters and not this peak speed. It's not what people advertise, wow, you get 500 megabit of your LTE for 1 or 2 seconds. It is how stable is it, what packet loss do I have on all the OSI layers, what protection do I have against a digger cutting the cable, but also against higher layer faults. For example, that you have a cheap Chinese modem which burns down could also cause downtime. So, a lot of education is needed here because you are fighting against the big marketing and people telling you, especially telling politicians to do something so that they can get the EU funding. So you need to fight back and make sure that the money that we can get from the EU to build networks is well spent. And maybe in 2 or 3 years, if I'm allowed to come back, maybe you have actually bet Germany and are like, higher up. We will not, we will stay at 1.6% for the next couple of years, but I believe that you guys can do it. Thank you so much.